So let's talk about W3C compliance and accessibility. Over 1 billion people are connected to the internet, and they're viewing your website either on a desktop machine or on any number of mobile devices. To make matters more complicated, some of them have physical disabilities such as blindness or color blindness, and they will need to be taken into consideration as well. Is there a standard that makes the user experience more uniform across the board? And the answer, of course, is yes. And that's what the W3C project is all about. The W3 consortium creates standards that are to be followed by website developers so that people can experience your website in a uniform way, regardless of how they're experiencing it. So if you go to w3c.org, you can run a test over your website, and they'll tell you exactly what needs to be tweaked in order to follow their standards. The good news is, if you've chosen WordPress as your content management system, you're most of the way home, because WordPress forces you to use proper standards when you're developing your website. There are some things like alt tags and other content considerations that you'll still have to make in order to meet with the W3C's standards, but WordPress will do most of the work for you. The other consideration is when you're setting up your website and selecting a theme or having a theme created custom for you, you want to make sure that it is responsive. Responsive is a term used in our industry to describe a website that changes its characteristics to accommodate a smaller screen. Sometimes you'll hear your web designer call it a viewport. So if you're on a smaller viewport, like an iPhone or a newer BlackBerry or an iPad, if your website is responsive, it will physically change. The downside of responsive websites is that it's really changed the way that we think about design. So it used to be that we had kind of a print mindset when we were designing websites. So when we glued something in place, it would stay there, and we could predict exactly how the text would flow around that object, and we kind of knew how people were going to experience the graphics that we created. Very much like a magazine or a brochure. When you create a brochure or something in a print medium, the elements on the page are not dancing around to accommodate the size that the person wants to see it in. Unfortunately, with responsive design, we have to lower our expectations when it comes to the look and feel of a site. So while it may look great on a desktop and good on 80% of the phones that you look at it on, when you get it into a situation where someone has told their browser to increase the text size or zoom in and out, or perhaps throw a reverse video effect on it so that the black text becomes white and the white elements become black so that it's easier to read, perhaps because of some visual acuity problems that they have. Suddenly all of your careful planning when it came to design has gone out the window. So this is kind of the balance that you have to strike when you're thinking about this in your planning and your launching. There's a certain amount of quality assurance that you want to do so that people have a uniform experience, and you also want things to look nice, but it's never going to be perfect because everyone's going to experience it in a very different and subjective manner based on the device they use and based on their own preferences. So my only advice I can give you is do your best and get over it. It's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be uniform because we're living in a crazy hip hop world. So don't worry about it. I had a customer actually in the last couple of years who could not grasp this idea. And the development process with them was a horrifying experience because no matter what we did, there was always something breaking something else. So it wasn't possible to get a uniform presentation that would satisfy them. So it was really, really hard. I think the site looked fantastic, and everyone I showed it to said it looked fantastic, but they had it in their idea that this was a print medium, and it's not a print medium. It's elastic. That's what you have to understand. It's an elastic, organic, and ever-changing medium, and the presentation is going to be circumstantial. So that's what you have to understand with responsive design and mobile websites, and also W3C compliance and standards. So if you don't know how to fulfill the recommendations made by your W3C report, you can just pass those on to your web designer and have them take care of those. And then you can launch your website with confidence, knowing that the maximum number of people are going to experience it in a sufficiently uniform way.